Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me on tonight's mindset call. I'm going to help you guys learn how to reshape your mindset when it comes to the different profits that you're making per trade, okay? Because we already know, or we should already know, that the market is never going to be the same, which means that the returns that we make in our trades are never going to be the same digits. Sometimes it might fall on that, but the likelihood of it is that we are going to make different amounts per trade. And it's just to give us a new perspective and really come out of the numbers and zone more into the fact that we did profit and why we profited. How well did we take that trade? All right. So let me start off with the topic of expectation. So if I tell you in as normal standard average day-to-day job, right, we have a contract that tells us how much we're going to make for the work that we do. Okay, so we have signed the contract, we've accepted it, and so we have this consistent routine that you work hard and you make the money. You get the salary that you're expecting. Now, with trading is a little bit different, but what we tend to do is we take that subconscious mindset on, having that expectation of making a certain amount for the work that we did. We take that and we apply it to trading. Okay, so if you have a weekly target, a daily target, a monthly target, you are naturally have imprinted in your brain that you are expected to make that certain amount. So, for example, if you have an expectation of $200, your weekly target at the end of the week is $200, yeah? What if the trades are not going to be the same? What if you don't take the same amount of trades? We're still working hard, but if every trade is different, if the amount that we make is different, if some trades go into a loss, how is that 200 going to be an expectation? How and why do we think that that 200 is going to be what we're going to make? It is amazing to have a target because it gives us motivation. It gives us step-by-step consistency. It makes us want to work hard, but we also have to look at this realistically. And the best example I can give to you is to think about scratch cards and how we operate when we get scratch cards. So when you buy a scratch card, obviously the more that you pay for one, the higher that your wins might be in the scratch card. And we don't know what's actually going to be revealed. Some of them have instructions and some of them don't. Some of them is just kind of, pay for the scratch card and see if you've won something. Now, when you scratch and you reveal a winning amount, even if it's £5, do we get excited? Yes. Are we shocked? Yes. Do we get that abundant feeling of, oh my God, I've won something? Yes, we do. And the nature of it is that we knew we bought something and we don't know if we're going to get something in return. We just don't know. And that's the same with trading. And the outcome of that £5 and that £10 or that £60, for example, a friend of mine just won £60 on a scratch card, on a bingo scratch card over the weekend. That money is still just as abundant as a potential 500,000 win. And that is the energy that you need to bring into trading to all of your trades when you're at profit. Even if you've taken a loss, that energy needs to stay consistent and so that you have that abundant feeling towards all your trades. Now, why is that important? And I'll explain to you in a little bit more detail when I show you my week's return from last week and Bella's, which she already screenshotted and posted into the community for us to see. We don't know if today's trade is going to give us $20, let's say for the person who is at a weekly target of 200, or we don't know if tomorrow we're going to make double of our weekly target. We just don't know, right? So if we don't know, why are we expecting a certain amount per trade? Why do we have to fulfill that TP? why is $5 not enough? If $5 is today, but then tomorrow is 195, we don't know if that's going to happen, but there is also a potential that it does. And so what I'm just going to do quickly is just screenshot for you my trades and Bella's trades that we took from last week, just to give you a little bit of a perspective of what I'm trying to say here, okay? So bearing in mind, by the way, the top one is my trades that I took on a 50,000 funded account, 50K, and then we've got Bella's here. But just really quickly, I just want to mention that I'm really happy that I only took 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trades. Perfect. My goal is always a minimum of $500. My standard usually is like 1,000, 1,500 for the week. I have made $2,000 before, but last week was a very busy week with work, with clients. And what I didn't want to do is be in trades that were going to last even longer than 10 minutes, because I knew I had to do a lot of driving and there wasn't going to be much time to trade. And so for those reasons, I committed to my minimum weekly target, as if I made that, then I would stop trading. And as you can see, I actually stopped trading on Thursday, and the Thursday and Friday. So I didn't take any trades Thursday and Friday on this account, but then on the Thursday and Friday, I worked on a funded challenge account. So I left this account as it was, stuck to my commitments and my targets. And what I wanted to point out to you here is, I said my minimum is $500. I actually made just a little bit over, and it's only a small amount. But if we zone into these trades here, I had a very, very tiny trade that I came out of literally just after a couple of minutes. Most of these were in between 3 and 5 minutes, 3 and 6 minutes. And I came out of them with a small amount of 29, small amount of 46, small amount of 45, again, small amount of 46. Did I know that on the Wednesday or Tuesday I was going to make 200 and 100? No, I didn't. Did I know that these trades weren't going to really do what I wanted it to do? No, I didn't. So I just took what I saw and allowed it to grow, making sure that the stop loss would go into into profit if need be. And the return here is more than someone's standard weekly amount that they would have made. Yeah? I'm trying to be as humble as possible, just to give you an example of what it's like to make 29, but then to make a $200 trade. If we go to Bella's now, Bella did an absolutely amazing last week. She made, if we zone in on this one, she made a trade of 246. She also made a trade of 304. She also made another trade of 215. Did she know she was going to make a trade higher than 215? Sorry, let's go to here. Did she know she was going to make a trade, at 1,200, 1,300? No. Did she know that the day after she was going to make, just under half of that? She didn't. But every trade she came out of profit because she moved her SL into profit. She made sure that her support line was always in profit. And no matter what she made, it still gave her a whopping just under $5,000. That is absolutely insane. And that is just based on managing and mastering your skill set to understand how to execute every single trade the best of the best. So just going back to my trades here. Yeah. If this was me last year, I would have been like, oh my God, $29, is that it? And then I would have gone back for another trade and potentially have sabotaged that 29 and have done a loss of 500. Yeah. So, oh well, if it was 29, I'm still working towards the unknown. I'm still working in abundance. I'm working for those bigger opportunities that I saw. And I think this is really good for a week where I was so busy that I couldn't be on my phone as much as I wanted to, let alone Friday. I took a trade on that funded challenge and took a loss. And I shouldn't have taken that trade because I knew I was going to be out all day. But these are just an example of how you can take small, tiny profits, and you never know what you're going to make. And then the return on a weekly basis is still going to be higher than someone's average weekly amount. Yeah. And the same thing with Bella. She just took profit whenever she saw it. And when she saw that and did that, the return was a lot more. This return is way more than someone's, monthly salary. This is probably double of an average salary per month. Yeah. So we need to get into that mindset, guys, of it's okay to take small. It's okay to take small because the big ones are coming. The big ones are coming. You are accumulating profit and a return to make a bigger amount by the end of the week. Yeah. And what you want to be doing is when you start the next week, you want to be thinking, how can I manage where I am protecting what I made last week, protecting what I made in order to keep profiting and keep building on the amount that I'm making. Yeah, this is where you start managing how your trades run, start managing the way that your mindset works through, your trades, through your journey. Yeah, I hope that makes sense, guys. So what I want us to talk to you about now is how to not get caught up with the influencers on social media, because it is so, so important that we don't compare ourselves to the skill sets that other people have. We are always on a new timeline and in our own unique timeline when it comes to trading. So someone's 5 years of skill set might not even show up in terms of their salary and their return because their mindset might not be there. But then someone's 6 months of skill sets might show up more than a 5-year person because they had their mindset on lock. Everyone's timeline is so different and so unique. And so please don't compare your $29 profit to someone's thousands and thousands and thousands that they've made in the same time that you've made $29, okay? Remember that we just don't know what's going to happen in trading. We don't know what the returns are going to be, and we don't know how amazing the abundance is going to be for us either. So just a few questions to ask yourself, guys. What does profit mean to you? What does it look like to you? How does it feel? Okay, because if you are a person who is just abundant on every level, any profit is going to feel abundant to you. If you are too focused on that weekly target or the daily target or the target that you've made for each trade, you are going to set yourself up for disappointment when you don't meet that. So why don't we take away that expectation? Why don't we detach from that expectation and start implementing new ways of thinking? So for example, I like to use colors on my charts, and something also that I've not spoken to you guys about is using the colors on your MT5 app. Okay, you can actually change all the colors on there. So I've got a nice blue background and my SLs are in navy, and my favorite color is that turquoise, beautiful blue-green color. So I've made all my profits shine up in that color. And I've done that because I want to make sure that the profit is looking at the color that is most drawn for my attention. So even if it's in a little bit of profit, because it's in that color, it magnifies the profit for me. And so I'm able to get more excited even about the smallest little $29. Yeah. So changing the colors and really amplifying those to suit you and how you feel, because the way TradingView is set up and the way the MT5s, MT4s are set up are with colors to actually stimulate your fight or flight or your aggression and frustration with the color red. And so if that's too much for you, if it's affecting you, then you want to change the colors on your screen so it matches how you feel. And have a color that's nice and beautiful and flavorable for profit, because it will just make you look at profit differently, and you will know from your experience. Yeah. The other thing is to always move your SL into profit. This is probably one of the most just amazing ways in how to make sure that you don't end up in losses. And that also gives you practice in going, oh, it hit SL, but it hit SL in profit. Yeah, that's the feeling that we want to take. Remember the scratch card feeling? Because SL in profit, sometimes if we've moved it too quickly because the trade is happening and we don't want it to go back to the original entry or an SL or a loss, we move the stop loss very quickly and we may not even know where we've moved it to and what profit. So when it does stop, wow, okay, I've made $56 or $100, whatever it is. If you're on big numbers, I've made $200, and that was only through hitting an SL. So make sure that your SL moving into profit becomes a really good habit, okay? The other thing I wanted to mention, if you are a scalper, all of this information needs to be your foundation. It needs to be your default, because as a scalper, you are literally going into trades very quickly and coming out of them, closing them very quickly, which means you're not even focused on the amount. Maybe you are setting yourself for 20 pips and you're going to come out at 20 pips, or you've decided you set yourself for 50 pips, but you're going to come out at 10 pips because this trade is playing a little bit too slow, or, you know, the news is coming up, so you need to come out of it. Yeah, with scalping, you are literally just taking it as it comes. And so you need to get into that habit that profit is profit, and you are just accumulating all those profits to make your big sum at the end of the week. All right. So today, if you have made any trades that were £1 or $1, however, wherever you are in your accounts, if you're at live account demos, if you've made that £1, just know tomorrow you can make 5, and just know the next day you might make 2, and just know the next day you might make 20. And if that comes up to $50 for the week, imagine $50 times 4 for the month. That's $200 or £200 in your account. That's an extra bit of pocket money, an extra bit of bonus. So what if it didn't meet your 500 or your £1,000, $1,000 for the end of the month? You still made money, right? You stayed committed. You followed your work. You followed your strategy. You stayed on board with your plan, and you protected your profits. That is a win regardless. So you want to be making sure that you're changing your perspective here, guys, that you're starting to just see profit is profit. You are starting to use colors to stimulate your mind and to magnify the feeling of a win, even when it's at a small profit. And you are also moving your SL into profit consistently as a practice, okay? So rein up on those feelings and really start to understand, why is it that you are not feeling great about your profits? What's causing that for you? What are you comparing yourself to? And what expectations have you set yourself up for? Write down the things that you need to do in order to demolish your expectations. Write down the things that you need to do in order to stimulate your mindset for profits, regardless of what numbers that they come out of, regardless of what digits they are. Okay, and surprise yourself and take those best of the best executed trades and see what happens at the end of the week. You just never ever know. And if you have a better week than you expected, amazing. Write down why that happened, and then you have basically a journal of your whole week to give you an idea of how to keep that mastery going for the next weeks and for the next months. All right, guys, thank you for being here with me this evening. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and please send me any questions through DMs or in the community, and we will catch up soon.